Welcome to the Storytelling Dad. This is where I share stories about fathers, families, and the hidden sacrifices that shape our lives. If these stories touch your heart, I hope you'll stay, subscribe, and journey with me. Today's story is called My Daughter Said She Didn't Want Me at Her Wedding, so I watched from the back of the church. My name is Daniel. I'm 57, a widower, and a father. For nearly 25 years, I raised my daughter Emily on my own. I worked long shifts at the plant, often coming home bone-tired, but I never let exhaustion stop me from being her dad. I braided her hair before school, stitched her costumes for school plays, and cheered the loudest at every recital. I wore the same old coat through winter after winter just so she could have new ones. I wasn't perfect, but I was there, always there. When she was just a little girl, Emily once threw her arms around my neck and whispered, "Daddy, when I get married, you'll walk me down the aisle, right?" I promised her, and for years, that promise carried me. Through every late night shift, through every lonely holiday, through every moment of doubt, I held on to that dream. One day, I will walk my daughter down the aisle. But dreams don't always survive pride. It was last spring, just months before her wedding, when Emily asked me to meet her at a small cafe near her office. She looked nervous, her hands twisting the napkin on her lap. She spoke softly, but her words landed like stones. "Dad, maybe it's better if you don't walk me down the aisle. Michael's family, they're very particular. They're used to certain things. I don't want them to judge." I forced a smile, though my chest felt heavy. "Judge me?" I asked. She couldn't meet my eyes. "It's not like that. I just want the day to be perfect." I nodded slowly, though inside, something cracked. Years of sacrifice of warm boots, sleepless nights, and quiet meals alone had built the very life she now lived. And yet, in her new world, I wasn't good enough to be seen. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at a photograph of Emily in her high school cap and gown. I remember how she had hugged me so tightly that day, tears smudging my shirt, whispering, "I couldn't have done this without you, Dad." And I wondered how a father could go from hero to embarrassment in just a few short years. When I closed my eyes that night, I didn't see the man I had become tired, older, worn down by years of labor. I saw the younger version of myself, the man who had once held a little girl's hand on the way to kindergarten. I saw Emily with her lunchbox swinging by her side, looking up at me with a smile that told me I was her whole world. Back then, I was all she had. After her mother passed, it was just the two of us. I remember holding her small body in my arms as she cried herself to sleep, whispering promises that somehow we'd make it through. I worked nights at the plant and took side jobs on weekends. There were bills I couldn't always pay on time, but Emily never knew hunger. I made sure of that. She had shoes that fit, clothes that made her feel like she belonged, and books she devoured late into the night. There were winters when I went without heat for days just so I could cover the tuition for her dance lessons. I told myself it didn't matter if my hands cracked and bled from the cold, because the sight of her on stage, bright eyes, wide grin, hair tied back in ribbons was worth it. Every single time, it was worth it. I still remember the way she ran to me after winning her school's essay contest in the 6th grade. "You're the reason I wrote it, Dad," she said, "because you always tell me to never give up." She hugged me so tightly, and in her arms, I felt like the richest man alive. And then came high school. Proms, sports games, late nights, waiting up on the porch for her to come home safe. I was strict, sometimes, maybe too strict, but I had only one job in this world: to protect her. When I handed her the keys to our old car on her 17th birthday, I cried. Not because the car was falling apart, but because I knew it meant she was pulling away, driving toward a life of her own. She never saw the sacrifices in full, the skipped meals, the empty gas tank I stretched for a week, the nights when I laid awake wondering how I'd keep the lights on another month. She only saw that Dad always came through. That was enough for me. So when she looked at me across that cafe table and told me she was afraid her new family might not approve of me, I didn't just hear rejection. I heard the echo of all those years I had carried her on my back, and suddenly it felt as though she had stepped off without looking back. And yet, even in the ache of that moment, I knew I would be there on her wedding day, whether she wanted me or not, because that's what fathers do. They show up even when their place in the picture has been erased. The morning of the wedding arrived with the kind of stillness that makes the world feel heavy. I put on my best suit, the only one I owned, pressed it as neatly as I could, and shined my shoes until they looked almost new. I didn't have an invitation. I wasn't on the program. But I had promised myself long ago that no matter what, I would be there when Emily walked into her future. The church was grander than anything I had ever stepped foot in, with tall stained glass windows and flowers at every pew. I didn't walk through the main doors. Instead, I slipped in quietly from the side and noticed among the bustle of guests greeting each other. My place wasn't at the front, next to my daughter, but in the shadows at the very back of the church. I sat there, my hands folded tightly, heart pounding in my chest. From where I sat, I could see everything: the golden aisle runner, the shimmer of lights reflecting off the chandelier, the guests in their fine suits and dresses. And then the music began. The doors opened, and there she was, my Emily, my little girl who used to chase fireflies barefoot in our backyard, now standing radiant in white lace, her arm linked with Michael's father instead of mine. For a moment, the world blurred. My throat tightened, my eyes burned, and I felt a tear trace its way down my cheek. She didn't see me. No one did. To them, I was invisible, just another shadow in the back row. But to me, this was the moment I had lived for, even if I wasn't allowed to live it beside her. I watched her take each step down the aisle. With every step, a memory surfaced. Her first day of school, her first bike ride, the first time she called me the best dad in the world. And now, here she was, walking into a life where, at least for today, I was not part of the picture. I clutched the edge of the pew so hard my knuckles whitened. My chest rose and fell with quiet sobs I tried to swallow. I told myself this was enough, that being here, even hidden, was better than not being here at all. Because fathers don't walk away, they stay, even if all that's left for them is the back of the church. And as the music swelled and the guests rose to their feet, I stayed seated. My heart ached with pride and pain in equal measure. What I didn't know then was that someone, a stranger among the guests, had turned to look back. And in that silent, aching moment, their camera caught me, an aging father in a worn suit, standing alone in the back, eyes glistening as his daughter walked toward a future without him. I thought that day would pass quietly, that I would return home to an empty kitchen, pour myself a glass of whiskey, and carry the memory alone. But the world has a strange way of shining light on what we try to keep in the shadows. 3 days after the wedding, I woke up to a buzzing phone. Dozens of messages, missed calls, even emails filled the screen. Friends I hadn't spoken to in years, neighbors I barely knew, all reaching out at once. "Daniel, is this you?" Man, I saw the video, my heart broke. "You're a good father. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Confused, I clicked on one of the links they sent, and there it was me. Grainy footage of a man in a faded suit, sitting at the back of a grand church, tears in his eyes as a bride walked down the aisle. The caption beneath it read, "Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear worn-out suits and sit in the back so their daughters can shine." The video had gone viral, millions of views, thousands of comments. Strangers from every corner of the country were outraged, heartbroken, and moved all at once. Who's his father? He deserves better. I'm crying this man raised her, and she didn't even let him walk her down the aisle? This is the kind of love we don't deserve but desperately need. For the first time in my life, people I'd never met were standing up for me. They saw what Emily hadn't, the years of quiet devotion, the sacrifices hidden in plain sight. By evening, news outlets were running the story, talk shows debated it, social media flooded with hashtags in support of the back row dad. That was me. The man who wasn't supposed to be part of the wedding had suddenly become the symbol of every overlooked parent who gave everything and asked for nothing. But Emily hadn't called. Not yet. I wondered if she had seen it. if she has grown through the endless comments, the messages, the anger, the love. I wondered if she recognized me not just as the man in the back row, but as the father who had carried her all these years. And though my heart ached, somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice whispered, "Maybe now she'll understand." It was nearly a week after the wedding when the call finally came. My phone lit up with her name, Emily. For a moment, I just stared at it, unsure if I should answer. Part of me wanted to let it rain, to make her feel the silence I had felt that day. But a father's instinct is hard to fight. I picked up. Her voice was unsteady. "Dad?" A pause, then a shaky breath. I saw the video." I said nothing. "I didn't know someone filmed you. I didn't know it would spread like this. Everywhere I go, people are talking about it. My friends, Michael's family, they keep asking me how I could." She trailed off, her words swallowed by guilt. Still, I stayed quiet. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than anger. Finally, she whispered, "Dad, I'm sorry." Her voice cracked. "I didn't realize what I did to you until I saw it through their eyes. You sitting there, alone, in the back of the church. Everyone else saw what I couldn't. I was so worried about what people might think. I forgot about the only person who's always been there for me." Her tears came through the phone, and with them, years of unspoken tension. I closed my eyes, letting the ache in my chest soften. "Emily," I said gently, "I never wanted their approval. I only ever wanted yours." On the other end, she sobbed harder. "You'll always have it, Dad. Always. I don't know why I was so blind. Can you forgive me?" I leaned back in my chair, looking at the faded photographs on my wall, her first steps, her graduation, every milestone we had weathered together. My heart whispered the answer before my lips did. I already did. There was silence, heavy but healing. In that quiet, something shifted. She wasn't just my daughter anymore. She was a woman learning, finally, what it means to honor the love that raised her. And though the world had seen me as the back row dad, to her, I was still simply dad. And that was enough. And though my heart ached, somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice whispered, "Maybe now she'll understand." In the weeks that followed, Emily and I began to rebuild what had been broken. It wasn't easy. Trust takes time to heal, but she called more often, visited when she could, and for the first time in years, I felt her presence not just as my daughter, but as my friend. One evening, she came by with a framed photograph. It wasn't from the professional wedding album, but from the video that had captured me sitting in the back of the church. Only this time, it wasn't a symbol of shame. She pressed it into my hands and said softly, "I want to remember the man who never stopped showing up for me, even when I didn't deserve it." I stared at that picture for a long time, and for the first time since the wedding, my tears were not of sorrow but of gratitude. Gratitude that, even in my absence from the aisle, my presence has spoken louder than words. And maybe that's what fatherhood is showing up again and again, in ways the world may never applaud. Not because we're asked to, not because we're recognized, but because love gives us no other choice. To every parent who has ever sat in the back row of life so their child could stand in the spotlight, your love is seen, your sacrifice matters, and your story is worth telling. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. From my heart to yours, I wish you health, strength, and the warmth of family. May your homes be filled with love, and may you always know that, even in the quietest corners, your presence makes all the difference.